Welcome to the Root of Power podcast, where I teach you how to chase your joy, find alignment, and create a life and a business that you love, using actionable methods, interviews, and inspiring stories from people who know that true freedom is found within. I'm your host, your always hype woman and sometimes ass kicker, Amanda Chils, and I am so proud of you for choosing to step into your power. Come along, we've got dreams to build. Okay, my love, I have put everything that I offer for free on one page so that we are not doing more work than we have to, because why would we do that? Hashtag work smarter, not harder. So livemyhappyhealth.com/free. You are going to find everything I've created for not only leveling up in your personal life and building a life that you love, but leveling up in your business life and building a business that you love. Okay? livemyhappyhealth.com/free. Love you. Hello, my friend. I hope you are having such a beautiful day or morning or evening or night whenever you listen to this podcast. I am so grateful that you choose to hang out with me and that you let me burrow into your brain like a little bunny. I intend for this podcast to be useful. I hope that you are happy with it and that you take these questions and start applying them to your life. So I will be honest, this year has both felt like super great and really cool, and also gotten me in a bit of a swamp. I've been traveling a lot more this year than I have in the past few years. And it's gotten me out of like a normal routine. Kitty just joined if you're watching on video. Hi, Kitty. He says he also wants to hang out with you. And so he came to join the podcast, sweet little baby. So I've been traveling a lot more this year than I have in the past few years. I've had multiple weddings in Florida, where I'm from, to go to, and that kind of throws me off. Not only does it just like literally travel kind of throws you off, right? Like, if you have to go on a trip, you're planning for it, you come back from it, you need like a day after your vacation to like have your post-vacation hangover and then to go back to real life. With my schedule and the way that it works, whenever I shift clients, it kind of puts me in like an overload position for a couple weeks afterwards, because people tend to have their schedule and it's a thing. It's not like a bad thing, but it is a thing that I navigate. So I've gone to Florida multiple times for weddings. So there's like that back and forth. And then my sister and I went to Italy in the beginning of April, which was like so cool. And honestly feels like a lifetime ago, even though it was like 6 weeks ago, but it feels like a lifetime, which is so crazy. So that, like a huge trip like that, there's so much logistics, there's so much planning. So there's been a lot this year that has kind of thrown me off, or feels like it has thrown me off. So I'm still working on getting back into the routine, and I just said routine really weird. Anyway. So I'm going to be playing around with some aspects of that and like create, like really focusing on a morning routine. And then I'm going to be taking what I learn, what works, what doesn't work, what systems. I'm very big on systems. If you listen to any episodes of the podcast, you definitely know that I love systems. They work well. I think the amount that you can do things is very dependent on the systems that you have and that you create. And my little ADHD brain loves systems because it means I don't have to work as hard. And ADHD brains are super good at pattern recognition, which means I'm quite good at also building systems according to a pattern. So I'm going to be really honing in on a morning routine. Kitty is such a sweet boy today. You sweet all the time. And then creating a course called Grounded Mornings for y'all, where you have kind of like, if you remember those Goosebumps books where it was like, choose your own adventure. And then you would have like six fingers in the pages being like, oh no, which adventure do I want? I promise it won't be scary like the Goosebumps books, but you will be able to choose your own adventure for a morning routine according to whatever is going to work best for you. Because I know obviously not everyone has the logistics or the schedule that I have. So it will be a choose your own adventure Grounded Mornings, and that'll be coming relatively soon. So I'm going to give myself time to develop the schedule the system and then implement it and see where the kinks are. And then once it is chef's kiss beautiful, you all will have it as well. So it's going to be a pretty low cost program, but that's not the point of this episode. Anyway, I just wanted to mention it, wanted to plant it in your little brain garden. So there you go. That will be coming sometime this year. But because it's kind of felt like a swamp, and if you are a human, if you're a human who's alive, and I hope you are because you're listening to this podcast. Although if I'm in the afterlife, that's also really cool too. I don't know if you can have podcasts in the afterlife. Again, that's here nor there. If you're alive and you're a human, then there have been periods of your life where it has felt like you're walking in a swamp, and it feels like, I mean, the Florida sun is beating your ass. There are mosquitoes everywhere. There's alligators trying to eat you. There's snakes going by. You're in a mangrove swamp. And I don't know if you've ever smelled mangroves, but like they are such a potent smell. You cannot miss a mangrove swamp if you've ever been in them. And if you've never seen a mangrove swamp, I would highly encourage you to. They're beautiful, but they have such a distinct smell, like so distinct. So you're in the mangroves, it's stinky, it's hot, you're sweating. And if you're like me, you hate sweating. I don't really understand people who like sweat. I'm like, 0% cannot do. So it feels like you're in a swamp, and when you're in that kind of a space, it's like, God, no matter what I do, I cannot get out of the swamp. That's what it feels like. Now, that's obviously not real. You can do many things to get out of a swamp, but it does take some time, right? You can't really like just jump out of it. It takes time to build a new system. So it feels like even just doing the day-to-day stuff takes more energy than when you're not in a swamp, because you're not waist deep in mud, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes with an alligator biting your ass. And you're like, bro, I know my peach is like, super fire, but like, could you not? So when I was thinking about the podcast episode that I wanted to record, I was like, okay, well, what would be really useful for people? And what would be useful for me? It would be useful for me and for hopefully y'all to have a podcast episode on like 3 questions. Very, very simple. Simple. We love simple. We love systems. We love simple systems. Yes, please. 3 questions that I ask myself when I feel like I'm walking through a swamp. And I will walk you through this process and like give you my own answers. So what are my options? What are my options for getting out of this swamp? Let's say currently, like I'm struggling to keep a morning routine that feels supportive. I have had an intention, I've had a goal to get up and go to the gym early in the morning and start work around like 8. And I have been waking up at 8 and starting work at 9. So that is frustrating to me. My clients feel good. The business feels good. That's not really an issue. But for a while in the beginning of the year, because it was onboarding new therapists and getting them trained and getting them, more able to like work independently, it was a lot. It was very energy intensive. I did not think it would be that energy intensive because I also have a pattern of not thinking through how much energy things will take. It's like both a blessing and a curse, because I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally do that. And then I underestimate how much work it's going to be. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm already in the middle of it. Fuck it. We're doing it. So it's a blessing and a curse. So that was part of what made the beginning of the year feel very swampy, like the travel, onboarding new therapists, getting them trained, expanding the practice, because obviously they're taking on clients. So the practice expands, all of those things, right? Plugging holes, whatever. So what are my options? Well, I could close the business. That is an option. And this is a time to brainstorm. Like let's not assess options. We're just going to brainstorm. I could close the business. That's not an option. I could choose to work out at night. That's definitely not an option because I hate bro hour, although I will be going tonight because I did not go this morning. So sometimes it's like, okay, well, I choose to sleep in, then I choose the consequence of that, which is to go during bro hour. And if you're like, Amanda, what's bro hour? It's the time in the gym where all the bros are there. When there's like a gang of like teenage boys and there's like 7 of them and they don't really work out. They just stand around bullshitting and they're like in the way. They're just perpetually in the way. And I'm like, listen, I know you need a place to hang out, but like, can you literally not use a squat rack to do so? Thank you. So bro hour. So I could get up and go to the gym in the morning. That's the intention, is to work on that. I could fire on my therapist and be a solo practice, which I seriously considered when I felt like I was very deep in the swamp. And then I was like, self, you don't actually want to do that. Like, I love my team. I love having the practice where it is. I could stop traveling. That's an option. And that's something that I'm doing for the summers. Like, I'm not traveling as much. So that feels really good. So I can like get more in my routine. I'll be more solidified there. I could work on establishing a routine. That's an option that I have. I could do nothing and continue to suffer. That's an option. It's just not a good one. So the first question is, what are my options? And well, okay, let me make this 4 questions. The actual first question is, what do I want? What do I want? I want to be more in a routine. I want to start work earlier. And I want to feel less overwhelmed. So overwhelm is a clarity issue, which just means it would benefit me to be more clear about what I want, which that goes away when I say I want a better morning routine, to get up, go to the gym in the morning, come home, do the thing, take care of the animals that I take care of. Thank you, Dad, for doing the majority of that. We love him. And then start work. So, okay, great. What do I want? That's what I want. What are my options? I can do any of those things that I just mentioned, but not all of our options are going to be helpful options, right? It's like, yeah, I could burn down my business, but I don't actually want to do that. I could never go to the gym again and just totally take that off my plate, but I don't want to do that. So the best option is to focus on building a system for the morning where I'm getting what I want, which also means I have to build a system for nighttime, because nighttime sets us up for the morning. So we are working on 2 systems. So those are my options according to what I want. I want a better morning routine. I want those things. So what are my options? Bing, bing, boom. Questions 1 and 2 answered. Next, where am I making this harder than it needs to be? This is a question a lot of people miss because they're just not thinking about it. So if there's any magic question in here, it's, what do I want? Most people never ask themselves. I cannot tell you how many clients I work with, and it's the vast majority of them, who, when I ask them, what do you want, look at me like I suddenly grew 6 heads. Simultaneously, they have a deer in the headlights look. So they're like, fuck, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, you just don't have a lot of practice asking yourself. Like, that's totally, I mean, it's not fine. It's definitely not helpful, but like, we can work with that, right? Because that's a skill that you can learn. You can learn to ask yourself, what do I want? So what do I want? What are my options? Where am I making this harder than it needs to be? For example, I will sit on Instagram, damn you, Instagram, and doom scroll for like 45 minutes in bed. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to bed at 10. So I'm in bed at 10 and I'm going to sleep at 11 after doom scrolling and amping up my nervous system because I'm fucking doom scrolling for 45 minutes. And now I'm pissed off and I'm sad and I feel hopeless about the world. And it's like not a vibe. So, okay, if I'm making it harder than it needs to be there, then it would make sense to not be on my phone in bed, which means I can do something else. I can just go straight to sleep. I can read a book. Again, what are my options? Where else am I making it harder? There's probably some areas where I'm making things more complicated than it needs to be, or where I'm not setting myself up for systems that are streamlined. Like, I don't put out my gym clothes at night for in the morning. So I'm having to wake up and make decisions, which that is an option that I have. So where am I making it harder than it needs to be? There is somewhere, I promise you, that we're making things harder than it needs to be. If you're a business owner, I promise you, you're making things more complicated or harder than it needs to be, because we all have rules around what things should look like and how we should do things. And no, thank you. There's an episode I did a few weeks ago about removing should from your vocabulary. So please, for the love of God, go listen to that. But if you didn't listen to that, should does not help you ever. What do you want? Go do that thing. Doesn't matter what you should, quote unquote, be doing. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't benefit you to care. I don't care. Let me set you free from that. Just go do what you want to do. Figure out how to do what you want to do. What are your options? Where are you making it harder? And then the last question, after you've like gone through your options and you figured out, okay, where am I making this harder? Is we come back to, what do I want to do? Well, I want to set my clothes out at night. I want to put my alarm clock across the room so I have to physically get out of bed to turn it off. I want to have a friend call me in the morning to make sure my ass is out of bed. I want to build a system where I check in with my team one-on-one once a month to make sure that they're good, to troubleshoot any issues that are coming up, blah, 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 blah. So one of the questions is the same. What do I want? What are my options? Where am I making it harder than it needs to be or more complicated than it needs to be? And then what do I want to do? Now, you may have this beautiful, perfect, wonderful plan, but if you don't want to do that plan, it's butt kiss. It's not gonna serve you, right? Like, I was talking to my coach, Allison, and I was like, yo, I want to get snatched AF for summer. Like, that's what we want. And she's like, great, you can track macros. And I'm like, no. Like, that's not the vibe. I don't want to be good at that. I don't want to put effort into that. I know myself well enough to know that, like, I'll do it for a few days and I just won't stick to it because I don't want to. I just don't want to do that. And she's like, okay, here's our other options. And I'm like, talk dirty to me. I love options. So pick the option that you want to do and we'll follow through with. Now, is it going to take some time for that option to become normal for you? Yes, of course. Is it going to take some time for that option to become second nature? Yes, obviously, of course. So that doesn't mean there will be no resistance or no friction. It means there will be significantly less resistance because this is the option that you want to do. And as I say all the time, it makes no sense to be mad about a decision that you are making. So you made the choice. Make sure you make a choice you are happy with. So there you go. This one was a quickie. We love our little 4 questions. What do I want? What are my options? Where am I making it harder than it needs to be or more complicated than it needs to be? What do I want to do? This will solve so many of your problems. Think of it as like being in a swamp, right? Because it, like, when life is hard, it feels very swampy. And then these questions are the fly boat. And you know, the fly boat is the thing with the fan on the back that runs through a swamp. So these questions are a fly boat that pick you up out of the swamp where the alligator is no longer biting your adorable little tushy and takes you out of the swamp so much faster. These questions are going to help you. So there you go. I'll repeat them again so that they live in your noggin. What do I want? The most important question. Ask yourself this all the time. You're welcome. We want you to get what you want because life is so much more fun. What are my options? Where am I making this harder than it needs to be? And what do I want to do? Bada bing, bada boom. You got it. Okay. Have a beautiful day. I hope this fly boat helps you. And if it does, if these episodes are useful to you at all, I would love, and I ask you to leave a review for the podcast, because the more reviews, the more it tells the little algorithm gnomes that live in all of our computers to shoot it out to other people. And the goal is that we impact literally 1 million people, which is so cool. So if I impact you and you impact your system, then like we're the rising tides that lift all boats, which is super dope. So if this has helped you at all, if any of the episodes have helped you, please consider leaving a 5-star review. Love you so much. Have a beautiful day. And here's to hoping you get the fly boat to get you out of the swamp. Okay. Bye.